So, you've arrived. Good. I was wondering when you'd show up. You've come seeking something, haven't you? Ambition? Knowledge? Power? Come on in. Let's talk about that. Let's have a little chat about the exquisite folly of it all.
It's funny, really. You spend your short, frantic lives putting up walls, making rules, creating systems, all just to feel safe. You call it a castle, progress, I see a cage, and a very fragile one at that. The difference, you see, is all about who's holding the key.
You know, every journey down into the dark, it always starts with one naive little step into the light. You all think you can capture truth, file it away, and keep it under control. You call it white magic. It's adorable.
That's what you are at the start, see? An arbiter of stasis. You take your tiny rulers and your brittle logic, and you try to draw a neat little map of something that's infinitely fractal. You actually believe you can pin down chaos with a definition. It's precious, really.
So, here it is, the choice. On one side, you've got your cozy little cage. Static control, rigid logic, this fantasy that you can map the unmappable. It's safe, it's predictable, and it is completely, utterly dead. But on the other side, that's the key. It means you have to go down. You have to embrace the fluid, breathe the void, and take a sip of the tasteless broth of truth. It's terrifying, I know, but it's the only way out of that box you built for yourself.
All right, enough with the abstract ideas. Let's use a metaphor that's a little more, well, a little more you. Let's talk about puppets.
This is the big prize, isn't it? The perfect being, the Übermensch. But here's the part you always miss. You're not born of nature, you're carved by will. And when you do that, you end up living in this impossible, tortured space, a thing of wood and string trying desperately to pass for flesh and blood.
And what's the result of all that effort? Not some higher being, just a trapped thing, a mind that knows it's in a prison, a soul just screaming from inside a painted wooden shell. That silence you're always surrounded by, it's deafening, isn't it?
And here is the truly twisted part of your struggle. You think the chisel that carves you is setting you free? Oh, you fool. Liberation is violent. That face you're so proud of, it's just a mask hiding that volatile, inhuman thing underneath. Your so-called morality isn't built. It's just the rubble left over after you demolish who you thought you were. And every transformation, every new mask, it's just you swapping one master's strings for another.
You know, the closer the puppet gets to acting alive, the more convincingly it smiles and dances and cries, the more you can't help but notice that void behind its eyes. The performance of being real just puts a spotlight on the monstrous hollow truth. It is all just a show.
But okay, enough about puppets. Let me tell you a story instead. A little fable about a king who was the greatest, grandest puppet of them all. He was so sure he was the master of his castle, when really, he was just another splinter of screaming wood. This monarch of ours, he was a proud one, believed in order, in logic, in absolute control. He was a cold, dispassionate architect, meticulously drafting the blueprints for his own magnificent suffering, and he called it a kingdom.
And on his head, he wore this thing, the parasitic crown. He thought it was the source of his power, his right to command. But in truth, it was feeding on him, draining his will, his freedom, his very soul, and replacing it with the dead weight of authority. So his world was starting to crack, chaos was seeping in at the edges, and what was his brilliant solution? To use his weaponized logic to rebuild his cage, not to break free, not to face the world, but to lock himself away even more securely. You see, he didn't want to live, he just wanted to take a nap.
But chaos isn't something you can just ignore. For him, it took the form of 3 unruly siblings. The wit, who mocked his every word. The hunger, who devoured all of his plans. And the small, the most frustrating of all, who just refused to be controlled. They were everything his rigid world simply could not handle.
And so, we come to the main event, the part of the story where the perfect little castle of logic meets the wrecking ball of reality. And let me tell you, it wasn't a tragedy, it was a farce.
See, the siblings didn't fight him with force. Oh no, that would have been too dignified. Instead, they just made fun of him. They turned his rigid orders into a ridiculous dance beat. His authority became nothing more than a humiliating, stumbling spectacle.
So in the end, the walls didn't fall because of a siege or a war. His castle, his logic, his entire world of order, it just collapsed. It fell apart under the sheer weight of a cosmic punchline. And the punchline was him.
So you see, this agonizing, humiliating downfall was, ironically, the only path he had. First, he had to be arrogant enough to command chaos. Then came the humiliation and the collapse. After that, the mourning, the moment he realized the life he was protecting was already dead. Only then could the final, alchemical step begin, the complete liquefaction of his soul.
This brings us to the moral of our little fable, the harsh, burning truth that forges a real being from the splinters of a puppet. You see, the final coronation isn't for a king, it's for chaos itself.
Forget your gentle stories about growth. Becoming human is not a slow, steady climb. It is a crucible, a violent, alchemical process of burning away everything you were. It's a rejection, a demolition. You must be broken to become real.
And here is the final choice. It's for you, Seeker. Will you cling to the anchor? To that heavy, dead stability of order, the logic of zero, of nothing? Or will you dare to become the creator, to embrace the terrifying lightness of becoming, the creative fire in the logic of one?
Don't mistake any of this for a fairy tale. There is no magic wish that will make you real. It is a cold, brutal, alchemical process. It's about identifying the wooden parts of your own soul, the pride, the fear, the rigid logic, and systematically, ruthlessly killing them.
So, I ask you, look at your own carefully constructed castle. Feel the weight of your own parasitic crown. Can you really do it? Can you let go of that anchor, that comforting stability, and just leap into the fire of becoming?
Go on, look in the mirror. Look closely at the mask that you wear, and ask yourself the only question that actually matters now. Which parts of you are just dead wood, screaming to be burned away? I'll be waiting for your answer.